All right, the narrow squat pulse, excellent movement for hip health, knee health, ankle health. So let's jump into it and check it out. We are starting in a narrow stance with our feet. Now, some of you might want to scooch out a little bit just for comfortability. Maybe you're not quite there where you can bring them in and get into the bottom of your squat. That remains to be seen. I would play around with this. Remember, all of these tools can be adjusted and tweaked to become optimal for you. So keep that in mind as you're watching this. You might think, oh, I can get deeper than this person or extend this, for more range of motion than this guy. That's totally fine. I want everyone to recognize that this is a blueprint and you can adjust things accordingly to you. Anyways, we're going to start in this narrow stance. We're going to come to the bottom of our squat. Now check this out, right? I can try to keep my back in a neutral position, but ultimately to get low, I'm going to have to come into spinal flexion. Now, if I want to keep my heels on the floor, I really have to utilize my arms to create a counterbalance. So the pulse is just coming up to about hips in line with the knees and then coming down. So this is a great one for my hips. However, my ankles are a limiting factor in my squat mobility. So some of you who don't quite have it, and you can see that I'm just barely there. If you don't quite have heels on the floor in this position, you can absolutely come from toes, look to get your knees as far over your toes as possible, and as you're coming up, you can get your heels in line, heels in contact with the floor, and notice my knees are now in line with my hips. So I can come down, focus on the ankles, trying to push my heels into the floor as my knees are over toes, and get heels on the floor. So they can look a little different depending on what your skill set is. If you've got nice mobile ankles, you might rock into your heels and still be able to get that knee over toe length, right? But for some of us who are just barely to heels in contact with the floor or don't have that yet, we're gonna wanna come off the heels, let them peel off the floor and go from here into our pulse, right? So just keep that in mind as you're doing this. But again, there's a lot to play with. You can adjust things again accordingly to how you're feeling and what feels most optimal. Don't be afraid to chase that optimal feeling. If it feels best, it probably is best. So anyways, have fun with this and have fun implementing it into your fitness practice.